It was a morning like any other in South Africa's expansive wildlife reserve. The crisp air carried the scent of dew and earth, and the wilderness buzzed with the soft hum of waking life. But amidst this serene start, an extraordinary story was about to unfold, one that would blur the lines between human vulnerability and the instincts of the wild. On a dusty road cutting through the reserve, a young boy sat alone, no older than 4, his small frame trembling with each tearful sob. His cries echoed, piercing the calm morning like a distress call to an unseen world. How he had ended up in this vast wilderness, with no one around, was a mystery. No vehicles, no people, just the boy and the untamed landscape that seemed to stretch forever. Deep in the reserve, Scout, a majestic lion, stirred from his rest. Scout was no ordinary lion. Raised in the reserve, he had a unique connection with humans, particularly Sam, the ranger who had once saved him as a cub. Over the years, Scout had grown into a symbol of the reserve, powerful, fierce, yet mysteriously in tune with the human world. That morning, as the wilderness came alive, Scout caught a scent that was unlike anything he had encountered before. It was faint, yet it stirred something deep within him. Rising to his full height, he began moving toward the source, his powerful strides cutting through the dense underbrush. When Scout emerged onto the road, his golden eyes locked onto the small, crying figure. The boy, unaware of the lion's presence, continued to sob, his tiny hands wiping his tear-streaked face. Scout paused, his instincts urging caution. This was not prey. It was something far more fragile, circling the boy from a safe distance. Scout watched, his movements slow and deliberate, as if assessing the situation. The boy's cries grew quieter, perhaps sensing the lion's presence. When Scout finally stopped, only a few feet away, he let out a low, resonant growl that echoed through the still air. The sound silenced the boy, who now sat frozen, his wide eyes meeting Scout's unblinking gaze. But this was no act of aggression. Scout's growl was almost protective. Meanwhile, Sam was on his morning patrol. The reserve was his home, a place where he had spent years safeguarding the delicate balance between humans and wildlife. Driving through the winding trails, he scanned the horizon for anything out of the ordinary. As he rounded a bend, his heart skipped a beat. There, on the road ahead, was Scout, standing tall and imposing, and in front of him, a small boy. Sam slammed on the brakes and leapt from the vehicle, his heart pounding. He had known Scout since the lion was a cub, but even he couldn't predict what might happen next. Keeping his movements slow and deliberate, Sam approached the scene, his eyes darting between the boy and the lion. "Hey there, little guy," Sam called softly, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. The boy didn't respond, his gaze shifting nervously between Sam and Scout. Sam knew he had to tread carefully. Any sudden move could startle Scout or frighten the boy further. For a moment, the three of them were locked in a silent standoff. Then, as if understanding Sam's intentions, Scout stepped back. The lion's powerful frame relaxed, and he let out a soft huff, almost as though he was relinquishing his role as the boy's guardian. Sam took this as his cue and moved closer, kneeling beside the child. "It's okay now," Sam said gently, his voice a soothing balm to the boy's fear. "You're safe." The boy's tear-streaked face turned to Sam, and for the first time, a flicker of trust appeared in his wide eyes. Slowly, Sam extended his hand, and the boy reached out, clutching it tightly. As Sam lifted him, he noticed the boy's clothes were dirty and torn, his small frame trembling from exhaustion and fear. Just then, the distant rumble of an approaching vehicle broke the silence. Another ranger, David, appeared, his jeep skidding to a halt as he took in the surreal scene before him. "Is he okay?" David called out, his voice tinged with urgency. Sam nodded. He's safe, but we need to get him out of here. As David approached, Sam noticed Scout retreating into the shadows of the bush. The lion lingered for a moment, his golden eyes watching the boy with an intensity that was hard to interpret. Then, with a flick of his tail, he disappeared into the wilderness. David guided the boy to his jeep, and the child, though still shaken, didn't resist as the vehicle began to move. Sam stood by his own jeep, staring into the dense greenery where Scout had vanished. There was a sense of awe mixed with gratitude. Somehow, this wild creature had understood the boy's vulnerability and chosen to protect him. Over the next few days, the mystery of how the boy ended up in the reserve began to unravel. Authorities discovered that he had wandered away from his family during a nearby camping trip. The family, frantic and desperate, had reported him missing hours earlier. When they were finally reunited, the boy's parents were overwhelmed with relief and gratitude. For Sam, however, the event left a deeper impression. He couldn't stop thinking about Scout's actions that day. The lion's protective instincts had transcended the natural order, forging a connection that defied explanation. It was a poignant reminder of the delicate and often mysterious bond between humans and the wild. The story of the boy and the lion quickly spread, becoming a symbol of hope and harmony. Visitors to the reserve spoke of Scout with reverence, and the staff began to see him not just as a resident of the reserve but as a guardian of its fragile balance. For Sam, the memory of that morning remained vivid. Every time he patrolled the reserve, he found himself looking for Scout, silently thanking the lion who had reminded him that even in the untamed wild, compassion could thrive.